How to find and trade anticipation setups to find low risk opportunities in the market. In order to find anticipation setups, the first starting point is something which has got an established momentum, stock with an established momentum. So for that, I run a very simple scan which looks for all the stocks, which includes stocks plus ETF plus ADRs. Price about $3. Price percent change today is between -1 and 1%, and the trend intensity is about 1.04, and liquidity is true. Liquidity basically looks for stocks which are traded 100,000, and this is a system criteria in telechart which you can set up to be between -1 and 1%. So once you run the scan, you're getting 797 stocks. So what I do is I sort that by TI65, because uh, you want to first find the strongest stock and then keep going down the line, because the stocks which show up right at the top by trend intensity, they are the strongest stocks in the market, and those are the ones which are moving at the fastest speed in the market, and your priority is to find setups on them first, and then if you don't find, then keep going down. So, and if you're pressed for time, if you don't have enough time, then you can just go through the top 50 or 60 stocks, and that's all you need to do, because if you cannot find opportunities in them, there's no point in keep going down. Or even if you're new to this, you should only spend your time on the top 50 or 100 stocks after which come in this sorted by TI65. So that way you're really focusing on the best opportunities in the marketplace. So once you have these 797 stocks, you go through all of them to find setups which might be something like this, which is like a setup here, like say setting up as a bull flag, um, or like even this stock which has got 2 days sideways after a big move. See, volume was the highest volume, probably the highest volume in months. Like if you see, it might be the highest volume, uh, see here, highest volume in years. So that's the kind of stock which you want to look for. This is one scan, so I already gone through candidate from this and already selected candidates from this. The other scan from which I look at is anticipation IPO, because IPO with less than 65 days of data will not show up in your other scan. So in order to do that, I have a scan which creates a sublist of IPOs and price percent change between -1 and 1%. And for IPO, I use a lower threshold of liquidity, which is 20,000 shares traded, because many IPOs can be illiquid, but then they break out and then they become liquid. So that's really what you can find by using this scan. So having gone through all these stocks, here are a couple of things which I have selected as of now. This is my list of stocks which I have selected. So I have around 22 stocks and ETFs on this list. So yeah, this MDGL obviously, and I made a big move here. This was also anticipation setup here. So that's one. This is another one which is a very powerful move with very high volume which has happened here. You'll see that the volume was one of the highest volume. Typically the first setup which happens after a very huge volume is the one which really, if it takes up, it can really make a big move. Then I have MTOR. Now MTOR here was not such a good setup, but as it has gone sideways and it continues to go sideways, it is becoming a better setup, because this was the first swing and now this is just going sideways. So that's there on my list. Then I have an app which is a biotechnology play. Again, see, huge volume here and then very orderly action here. See here, this is the kind of setup which can, if it takes off, it can really take off. It's also an IPO, recent IPO basically. Your club, which is again it's not very liquid, but 78.5 shares, 78,000 shares traded. Then you have in ETF ERX, and you'll find whole host of ETFs in the energy sector in a similar situation, and as a result you'll find whole host of energy stocks also. I also have Pure Storage on my list. Here again, huge volume, set up as an anticipation setup, did make a move up around 10%. Now again, maybe developing as an anticipation setup. Also remember, all the setups here are not necessarily the one which by tomorrow morning I would have finalized only 4 or 5. So some of these may not show up in the priority list, but currently as of now I have my set of stocks like Patterson UTI, again because the energy sector itself, the ETF as you see is going sideways, so you see a lot of stocks in the sector might be setting up like this. Now you have genuine parts company, again this is a similar kind of a setup. You had a huge breakout here on some news, and that this is very orderly, setting up like nicely. If it breaks out, then you're looking at probably 100. It's a high price stock. Then you have HDP, which I was like watching. I've been watching it for some time. The problem is it did have a breakout and then it faded. But sometimes you can have that kind of a thing because it will be on the watch list of most of the newsletters and most of the sites which do swing trading. And sometimes like if you give them a specific buy point saying this is the buy point, and a lot of orders come in at that time and then it breaks out and then it can fade also. But that's TPIC, not really a fully formed setup, but like again this is an IPO, so this is like an IPO. They can be a little bit like more volatile, and also the volume is low on this one, but like this look like a setup which is like this thing setting up here near high. So Andarco Petroleum, a little bit more volatility than what I like, but I just put it there currently for the time being. Gel, this is another IPO setup which looks nicely forming. See where you see this is like the leg and then setting up nicely as a sideways move, and if it breaks out it will be like a lot of these are like basically IPO kind of moves. DIG, which is again another ETF in the same sector. BlackBerry this is a huge move on earnings. Now it is like pulling back. Now sometimes I put stocks like this and they might take 2 or 3 days to develop as a setup. It might have another 2 or 3 days of pullback from which it can make a move. If you see here again, like, and it made a similar kind of a move. It had this and then pull back and then it took off. Many of the large cap stocks, when they have these big gaps, they typically tend to pull back afterwards. Now I also have AEIS, which is again like say here there's a recovery which has happened after a big sell-off, and then there's like this 3 days of move, and now it's 2 days. It might take a couple of days, like, and I put in some of these in watch list and then they develop. Sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 days for them to develop, but I just noticed this and I said, okay, this looks like on a longer term kind of a swing move. It might be setting up probably. So that's there on the setup list. BA, this is something which is like I'm watching very, very closely, because any move from here is going to be 25 to 30 dollars in terms of dollars, or 25, at least $10 kind of a move. So for a dollar breakout kind of a thing, these are ideal situation, because you can get into a dollar breakout kind of a move with just a very close top of 50 cents or sometimes even less than that, and then the stock takes off and it can make 5, 10, $20 move. So that's why I'm watching this very closely, because this is very, very nice, and other stocks in this sector are doing very well, the defense sectors. So this is really my priority number one kind of a setup. AGU, see here it did fade, so there is a little bit of like a negative on this, but like again it is setting up for a possible breakout. NBL, which is in the oil sector, oil and gas, a lot of stocks in that sector are showing up. Guide wire, maybe kind of a setup, like becoming choppy. See here, like a lot of negative days. So, but there was a huge volume breakout here. I'm not sure about the news. I have not checked the news as of. Then IYE, which is another ETF. These are all in the same category as ERX. Basically, they are all the. Now you have Baker Hughes G company. Now here again, this is an IPO, like say here breaking. This is the first leg of the move. This is typically like it's also a large cap, see 42 billion, trades a lot of shares also. So this looks nice. Like this is if it breaks out from here, at least, and if it goes to its IPO price, you're looking at $40. So these are some of the ideas which I have. I didn't look at other people's list. Because then I would have got influenced by it. So I will do a video in the morning looking at you people's list. Now this is one part of this thing, which is like the bullish side. I also run a bearish side of this, anticipation bearish. and if you are of the opinion that the market is going to go down. Now in the anticipation bearish, I do a little bit of like in a differently. What I'm looking for in a really from a idea or the setup point of view is stocks which are run up a lot. They breaking down and then they're forming like in a bearish patterns after they break down, or they are ready to break down from being overextended. So that's the kind of thing which I'm looking for, because on short side you have stocks which go up 300-400% in a year. They tend to make better shorts than something which has been beaten down completely. Some of the beaten down stocks also do well on short side, but mostly the one which break down majorly, which has gone up majorly, are the one which are better. So there are some qualitatively different things which I use for scanning for this. First is price history about 3. Double trouble is true. So I look for a stock which has gone up at least 80% from its 52-week low. That way you're capturing those stocks which have made 400, 500, 1500% moves. So I use the DT condition here to find stocks which on a short side, and the liquidity again I use 500,000 as a liquidity here as against 100,000, because you need more liquidity for a short side, and then the condition is same, you're looking for -1 to 1%. And so like I've gone through these. This is one scan which I run for bearish anticipation, and I also run, as I said, look at even stocks which are down a lot also make good candidates. So price percent change, which is the anticipation condition, price history, TI 65 below 0.95. So these are stocks which are in a downtrend, and liquidity 500 is true. So I mean within 3.1 is greater than 500. Again, more liquidity is required on the short side, because the one which doesn't have enough liquidity, they can bounce back very hard. So I've gone through these, and I will show you some of the bearish setups which I'm watching currently. I'm watching WUBA as a bearish setup. Now why? Because this big drawdown, and this is a counter trend move, and you'll see that the volume wasn't very high on this. So here if it breaks down, you're looking at like again at least 58 from here. So that's like one of the things which I'm watching. Someone said that they're long this particular stock. To them this is long, to me this is a short setup basically. Again, breakdown and minor bearish flag forming. Stock has gone up a lot, so that's one of the things which I'm watching. INCR, again stock had a breakdown and this minor trend, and if it breaks down, so that's like the stock is too choppy, but like so those are some of the negative. Now Viva Systems, see these are the kind of stocks which can sometimes make good shorts, because stock went up a lot. Like say here the stock went up almost like 219%, and recently had a very high volume breakdown, and then like this down move and this counter trend move. So if it falls below this, like say probably below 56.50, it might be a short. Not 50, yeah, 56.50, not 55.50. Okay, and this is the one which I'm really watching as one of the one which is the number one short setup which I'm watching. See here again, like you have a stock which has made a big move. So stock has gone up from 10 to around 50, almost 50. So you're talking about 334% move, and the highest volume day in its entire trading history here. And stock had a big breakdown, and then there is this counter trend rally which is looks like it is petering out. So probably a shorting point on this one will be around 40.75 or something like that, or even 40.80, because that's like if it gets going, then you're looking at it making a big move to the downside. So those are some of the short ideas which I'm watching. Basically this is the kind of thing which I like to look at in a short, if it works. These are the kind of patterns which are good patterns for shorting. So I have 5 stocks on watch for shorts, and I have around this thing. Now obviously I always check the earnings date. So here there is a next earnings date, so I check the earnings date to see that I'm not getting into something which is like going to have earnings in a couple of days. The other thing is like I will check typically news in the morning to see if there is any news, because sometimes there can be a downgrade on a stock which you're watching as an anticipation setup, and then it will come down, or sometimes there is a upgrade and then that stock breaks out in the pre-market itself. So those are some of the things. Obviously out of this, like, a lot of stocks will get eliminated in the morning. Some of these will definitely stay on my list, but like say some of these kind of not this, but like stock like Pure Storage may not make it to my trading platform, but this stock will definitely make it to my trading platform. So basically 2 or 3 or 5 quality ideas, and then which will be A grade ideas, and the remaining will be B grade ideas, is what I'll be looking at in terms of finding from this kind of a setup. Remember that this is not the setup, only setup which I am trading. There is 4% breakout, there is dollar breakout, there is low threshold breakout, and there are a couple of other things which I worked on in last 6 months or 1 year, which are basically in addition to this anticipation. So this is one of the ways in which you can find opportunities, but it is very good for working people and other people also, anybody, because you basically have things in your pocket. Like I know, like if it breaks out, there is a good entry point on this. So but stock like this can also break down also, but like at least given the sector conditions currently, probability exists that it will break out to the high side. So these, some of these stocks like BA, even this MDGL, this thing, ANAB and all, they will go on my trading platform, and the top in the order in which, like, and I feel that like they are basically important. So this couple of these stocks will definitely go up there, while rest of the stocks will be at below that, less priority. But like doesn't mean that I'm not going to look at the one which are less priority. Sometimes nothing breaks out from what you're watching. This will also go in a priority list basically. So I will, out of these 22, basically something around, say, these 5 or 6 are my top stocks: MDGL, ZZ, NX, ANAB, GEL, BA, and BHG. Remaining will also remain. So if something breaks out from the remaining list, then you still can have a look at it. Like say the top stocks which I had didn't really break out today, but I was looking at this, and the Fleet Core had a breakout. This was like a really a B grade setup. It was down in my list of priorities, but like I found this was the one which was breaking out early in the morning, and this did make a 3% and $3 move. That's a lot of move for a dollar stock breakout kind of thing, and that's the beauty of dollar breakouts, and also anticipation on these higher price stocks like BA and all, because this is a $255 stock. So if it breaks out, and if you can get in an entry with just a $1 kind of a situation, you're looking at a very low risk, and the risk reward or RR is much better. So that's the way to find this thing. Now obviously in order to become better at it, you have to do it for multiple weeks, multiple months, and then you just develop an eye for finding out the right kind of opportunities, and also to get in early, and also to get out once you are in it, if it like and it starts to fade. So those are some of the things which you have to work on operationally to find things. And now as I said, look, this is on a daily time frame, but the same principle applies if you want to look at longer term time frame and look at like in stocks which are setting up on a weekly time frame. Like, and you can do this same thing on a weekly time frame. In order to do that on a weekly time frame, I would suggest that you do it on a DT kind of a list, or MDT kind of a list, because that's like where you'll find a lot of stocks which are basically setting up like on a longer term trend, because many of them I don't want to get into too technical a discussion about why it happens that way, but like if you see some of these stocks have like okay, they have really gone down, but like say if you look at these 449 stocks on a weekly basis, I'm using a weekly chart here, and you'll find that some of them will be having a longer term, like and I say something like this is not really like it made a big move, and it just like probably might be on a weekly basis, this might be a anticipation setup, and from there it might break out, while on a daily basis you would not have looked at that as an anticipation setup. So if you're looking for a longer term hold period, like say something like this, which if it like again has a breakout from here, it's going to make a big move of multi weeks, multi months. So if you're looking for multi months kind of moves, then you have to use a different lens basically. Like if you're like if you know something about photography, like say this IRBT, which will be an example which a lot of people will show you, like on a weekly basis, like on a longer time frame, it might be an anticipation setup here and made a move, or like and it might be here 2 weeks, 3 weeks tight, which is what like an IBD says, and then it had a breakout. So those are the kind of setup which you'll find if you use a weekly thing. Now how do you scan for that? Like I would say that like simple, liquidity is 2, price is to about 3, double trouble, which is like C by min low 252 is greater than 1.8, and then you have to go through each one of them basically. Either like because things are not going to move so rapidly, you can do it on a weekend and then keep on updating the list on a daily basis basically. But if you go through this list, and I'll do this very quickly to see if there are any other, like, and I'll just like mark some of these, like a cow is a probable setup which is setting up there on a weekly basis, okay, not on a daily basis, okay. And that's how you'll find that like a lot of, see now this is again like say on a weekly, this looks like an anticipation setup. See on a weekly basis 0.03, 0.009%. Daily it may not be such a good setup. See, you don't, so obviously first you select, sorry, based on weekly, and then go to the daily to see that both time frame it is a anticipation setup or it is reasonably good anticipation setup. So obviously the one which we looked at on a daily basis doesn't look so nice, but like if you keep going down, now this is just an anticipation setup on a longer time frame. It is setting up probably, so you can watch for it. Now why are you doing, you have to be clear about it. Like if you're going to be doing this weekly kind of a thing, you're doing this weekly kind of a thing because you want to find setups which you want to hold for a longer duration kind of a thing. Now AMD will look very choppy on a daily time frame, but it might look like a, but the ideal weekly setup is again like this, say here, like, and this is very nice weekly setup here, 4 weeks very tight. This was like and then it had a big breakout here again weekly. See volatility going down after this checkout kind of a move. So that's what you can look at. So if you keep going down, you may or may not find many good setup, like say here Tesla was like a pullback kind of a thing, but like breaking out from a longer setup. Sometimes like you have to go and see if this was a buyout or something. So I'm not going to go through all 400. I'll just go through a couple of them. Like say here, this looks like a, but it is too sideways. Ideal setup is like this, only 3 or 4 weeks sideways, which is what like basically is a good on a weekly basis also setup. Let's hope you find something. You may not find so anything. It depends really. Sometimes you will get good setup, sometimes you will not get setup. If the market has gone up a lot or the market is going up and stocks are already broken out, you may not find. But like this is low price, but like but again you have to go on a daily to see. It's too choppy on a daily, so it's more work. But like that's how many of the people who follow the IBDA methodology and things like that, they go through 1400, 1500, 1600 stocks and then find their setups. But most of them, they start with the weekly and then they go to the daily. So they'll select based on weekly and then they'll go to the daily time frame to see that on a daily time frame also it is a good setup. So if you keep going down, I don't see much here as of now. See again, this would have been a good setup on a weekly here probably, and then it had a breakout, already had a breakout recently. So I don't see much here as of now. I've gone through around 150 and don't see much. The gold stocks, maybe this is doesn't look so nice. It was much nicer here. again, like say here on a weekly, it would have been a better setup. See, because like very orderly pullback, and then it had a breakout here. So here again, like on a weekly, it had an orderly pullback kind of a thing, or like say this was just weeks of going sideways. So there are always ways to find setups which other people will find also, or there is nothing proprietary in this field. Like if you show me a person's couple of trades, you can work backward and find what how they must be finding the trades. So see, most stocks have gone up because in the recent weeks, so you may not find much which is still going sideways or setting up nicely on a weekly. So I have gone through 200, but I don't see much here as of now. SDP, see here. So let's go and see it on a daily. Guess what? It's also in your daily setup, right? And because on weekly also it looks nice. So see, even this one was like on a weekly setting up nicely, and if you see on a daily, it had a breakout here and then breakout here. So you can see this would have been a weekly setup here. So this extreme network had like in a 3 week sideways tight this thing, or so that might have been, but again it had already had a breakout and has gone up in recent days, or like here again the same setup will show up on your daily also. If you're doing weekly, like it would show up in your daily setups also on anticipation. If it is a good weekly setup, most of the time you'll find that. So either you can do this weekly or you can do the daily, and more or less it will find the same kind of setups basically. Here again, like this would have been like on a this thing kind of weekly kind of a thing, and then like it already has a breakout here. If you see, a little bit choppy. See here also, like see, so have been. So it's basically, it doesn't matter which method you decide to use. You can find setups with the same idea. You can find the same thing on even like say 5 minutes chart also, right? So it doesn't matter. Like this is also a setup on a daily, on a weekly, just 2 days, 2 weeks sideways. It's going 2 weeks sideways. Let's check on daily. See again. I don't really do the weekly thing because I think the Now something like the Juno Therapeutics, okay, so it should be also showing up on daily also, like see here, it's like a weekly setup is nice, so you can add that as a good candidate basically. On weekly it is also like setting up as a setup, see 0.42%, 19 cents. The weekly basically reduces the some of the volatility which you see on daily you won't see on a weekly basis, but like this is setting up possibly a very nice setup on a weekly basis. Okay, myocardia again, like this is setting up very nicely on a weekly, and if you see on a daily, okay, see here, little bit choppy, but like on a weekly, that's like in a nice setup. So you got like couple of nice setups on weekly also. mTOR in just 2 weeks sideways, which you will see on a daily also is setting up nicely like that. uh, I'm sure this must be setting up on daily also, because see, but more choppy. Ideal situation is you find something on a weekly, and then like it is also a very good daily setup. So if you find a combination of that, then that's a very good situation. Like say here, like probably it's going sideways, not enough sideways, but like, but see it's choppy, so that's not a good setup. Insmed Biotechnology. This is like, and I say 3 weeks sideways. It's breaking out already, but like, but it still is on a weekly. It's a good setup, so that's something which you can look at. Now again, remember what is your objective of why you're doing weekly, because you want to capture a longer move. So if there is a good weekly anticipation setup which is setting up, and then it breaks out, and it is also a good daily setup, like you have say a cow kind of thing. Now if supposing it like this week breaks out with a force, then probably you can hold it for multiple weeks. Basically that's the whole idea. Okay, Enzo Bio came now again on a daily basis. This is the problem, like this reversal, so that's not really such a nice setup. I don't know why it came in, why this came in. It should not be. Changyu again on a daily, it's like it looks too choppy, so I don't know. This one again, obviously it looks nice on weekly as well as on daily. Juno, this also looks nice both on weekly as well as on daily. If you see, I am not sure whether this is a buyout. I don't think it is a buyout, but that has to be checked. Again, myocardia, it looks good on weekly and also probably on daily. This is a pullback, like in the context of a big move here, and Soma again looks nice. So those are the setups which you can find using weekly charts also.